My Porch Prints, and today we are going to be doing a quick and easy kind of beginner's junk journal tutorial. And we're going to be using one of the kits from my Etsy shop. This is the letter writing kit, and this would actually work with probably nearly any of our journal kits because most of them come with papers, pages, tags, you know, just kind of the same things. And you can also make a junk journal without a kit. Obviously, you can use things like papers and notebook pages and doilies and whatever you want. It's really up to you. But today we're going to be doing just a quick and easy journal using one of the kits. And this is kind of for beginners, but if you also just, you know, have one style of journaling and you maybe want to learn another one, this could be good for you too. So today we are going to talk a little bit about the pieces that we're going to be using, and we're going to make the cover and the pages. And then in another segment, we'll be using pieces from the kit to decorate the pages. So to start with, just a few things about supplies I'll be using. These are some chipboard pieces, and they come pre-cut to this size, which is 5.5 by 8.5 inches, which is half of a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Which, you know, since most people fold their pages in half to make journal pages, that makes sense. So these will be the covers. And then I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And then these are going to be how we put our pages into our journal. And this is called a hidden spine. And why it's called that is because we're going to sew our pages into this part and then glue it in, and it'll be hidden so that you won't see it. And then this is a freebie that I'm going to be giving away in my Facebook page, to my Facebook group. So it's for a journal that has a 1.5 inch spine and 1, 2, 3, 4 signatures, which a signature is just a group of folded pages. So this will have 4 groups of folded pages, and the spine will be 1.5 inches wide. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. And then some other supplies. If you're new to junk journaling, it's kind of good to know a few things. There's not a lot involved. I mean, you can do a lot with just, you know, glue and scissors. But if you want to get into it, you might want a few more supplies around. One thing that a lot of people use is distress ink. This is vintage photo color, and I use a makeup sponge, but they make sponges for applying it. And this is to like, I'll just show you really quickly here, to give items kind of a vintage look, I guess, and it also helps give them some just dimension, I think, so you get kind of a cool little aged look there with that. And then something else that's really handy to have, this is a scrapbook cutter, and you use it to cut your paper. And there's different kinds of cutters and things, but this is just, I think, a quick and easy way to cut your pages, because a lot of times when you get like journal pages or papers in a printable kit, your printer will print with a white border all the way around the edge, and you have to cut the borders off all of your papers, and that can be really tedious if you don't have something quick and easy like this to do it with. So that's why that's handy. And then another thing, of course, you're going to want is adhesive, and I use usually Aleene's Clear Gel Tacky Glue for a lot of my projects. But you could also use, you know, art glitter glue. There's a lot of different brands that work for this. So I think just, you know, experiment, try to find what you like. And I also like to use runner tape, which it just goes, and you can stick things to it. And some of you are probably going, yeah, we know this. This is really, just keep in mind, for a beginner, someone who's maybe never made a junk journal and is just thinking about doing it. I want to inform you a little bit about some of these things. And then this is a corner rounding punch, and what it does is it takes your corners, and this has a small, medium, and large on it, and it just rounds them off. And that can be really handy for some things, like if you want to round your pages or whatever. And then this is called a bone folder, and what it does is when you fold a page in half like this, and you want to give it a crease, this is really handy for that. And you might think, oh, I don't need that, but I'll tell you, after using like my fingernail for, you know, 20 pages, I'm really happy to have something like this. And then, let's see, you'll probably want things like a ruler and that kind of stuff. And this is my Crocodile. It's actually a really just fancy hole punch. And the reason I like it is because it punches small holes, And when I sew in my pages, which don't be daunted by that, sewing in pages is not as hard as you might think. I like to have a really small hole, and you can punch a hole with like an awl, you know, probably like, what's an awl? Hold on a minute. Okay, so this is an awl. I don't know if you can see that. And it's just a really long, sharp, pokey thing, and it pokes holes and stuff. And you'll actually need to do a lot of this when you're binding pages into a book. And I actually got this bookbinding kit. I wrote this on here. And it came with the awl, and it came with a little bone folder of its own, and then it came with some wax thread. And this is how I'm going to tie the pages into the book. So, I'll put links to this stuff below. That way if you want to get some for yourself, you can. But don't be too daunted thinking you need a ton of stuff to make a journal. You really don't. It's not that hard. And even like with this chipboard, you could just use, you know, like a cereal box or whatever. It may not be quite as sturdy, but you can still do it, and you can still make a nice journal from it. So to start with, sorry if I'm talking really fast. I tend to talk kind of fast in a video. I'll try to slow down a little. But to start with, these two pieces are going to be my front and my back cover. And then I cut this 1.5 inch spine. Remember, we have this template that's a freebie in my Facebook group, and it's going to go inside this spine. And I chose 1.5 inch. Honestly, you might even want to go with 2 inches when you're getting a little further along in your journal process, because you'll realize that the journals just get bigger and bigger the more you put into them. But to start with, this works. And what I did was I took one of these pieces and I just measured 1.5 inches. And I did that with my little tape measure. 1.5 inches in from the edge. And then I just marked it with a pencil, you know, like right here. And then I moved up a little bit and marked it right here. And then what you do is you connect those two lines. And then I used an X-Acto knife and I cut it. And that's how I got this. I'm not going to do it right here because I actually did this on my mat. And I have a craft mat. It's a self-healing craft mat. And so if you're new to journaling, you could look up self-healing craft mat. I'll also try to put a link to that below. But it's nice because when you cut it, it, you know, heals itself. It doesn't, you know, the cuts don't stay as much as they do in like just, you know, something else. So that's part of the reason I like those self-healing mats. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so like I said, I've got the front and back cover and the spine of my journal. And when these come together, they'll make, you know, a journal. And to start with, oh, and before I do this, I should probably mention, I printed this kit. This is one of the kits in my shop, the letter writing kit. And I printed the journal pages on the front and the back of my paper. And how I did that was I just printed one side, flipped it over, put it back through the printer, and printed on the other side. And some printers, you might have a hard time matching it up so that the page is in the middle on both sides, because sometimes it'll offset the image just a little bit. And that can be adjusted in the settings. But if you're a little daunted by technology and you're like, oh, I don't know how to match up my pages, another thing you can do is print your journal page on one side and then flip it over and print one of the printable papers on the other side. And that way there's nothing to match up. They just have this like kind of seamless pattern, and like this one. And so you don't have to worry about whether it's, you know, right side up or upside down, or whether you've got it, you know, matched up perfectly. You can just print a printable paper on the back if that's easier for you. So to start with, I've got these two papers from the kit. Actually, it's one paper printed twice. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue them together, and then that's going to become kind of a way to hold my cover together. So I'm going to do it like this. And I'm going to glue them together the long way, so that the long side's what's glued together, not the short side. And then I'm going to take my journal covers and my spine, and I'm going to try to get the spine kind of in the middle where this, I don't know if you can see this, where this seam is. And because we're going to cover that up, and so hopefully that seam won't show too much when we're done here. And what I'm doing is leaving just a little bit, my desk is really cluttered, leaving a little bit of a border around all edges. And that's because we're going to fold it in when we're done here. So let's glue these on. And when you glue the spine on, you want to leave a little bit of a gap, like about a 1/4 inch or so between, the cover and the spine, just like that. And that'll help it to fold. And I'm going to use my bone folder just to kind of smooth this out to make sure it's stuck really good. And you don't have to use tape runner for this. You can use regular glue if you want to, but I suggest brushing it out so that it covers the page or the chipboard completely, because otherwise you might get some wrinkles. It's not a big deal, but it can look a little less professional that way. Okay, and so now we're going to notch this out. And well, that's not entirely true. We're going to cut the corners off so that we can fold this. And I see that this side is a little bit longer than this side. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut that off with my scrap trimmer and try to even it out just a little bit. Okay, so what I'm doing, oh, sorry, my hands are kind of wet. I just took a drink. What I'm doing is I'm going to cut these corners off, just kind of like that. And then sometimes people will notch out the spine, and I have done that before, but I noticed that sometimes there's this kind of like weird little gap when I do it, and so I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to just leave this, and we'll see how it works. But if you do want to notch out the spine, what you do is you cut a little V shape here, and a little V shape, I don't know if you can see that, a little V shape here, and a little V shape here. Just like, and I'm not going to do that this time though. Okay, so now, do I want to use tape on this? I don't know if I do. I might use glue. Just because it's hard to get close to the edge sometimes with this tape. So, I can get my lid off my glue. There we go. Oops. Glue on me. So, what we're going to do is just glue these tabs and fold them over the edge like this. So you're basically just kind of like gift wrapping your journal cover. You know, you cover it with paper and you wrap it around. It's not too difficult. So Now we have our cover covered and we're going to be able to decorate the front and start adding some pages here. So I'm trying to decide if I want to do pages first or cover first. I think I'll go ahead and do the pages first. We'll set this aside to dry for a moment. So for the pages, this kit comes with some printable pages and papers, and it comes with blank and lined pages as well. So you can print as many or as few as you want, whatever you want to use. You can, you know, print 2 or 3 of the lined pages if you like writing in your journal, that kind of thing. And like I said, you can print the pages front and back, or if you can't get them to line up quite right with your printer, you can always just print the printable papers on one side. And in addition to the papers, you're going to want to add kind of your own things into the pages of the kit as well. And some of the things you can add are envelopes. And the kit actually comes with some envelopes too, which you could add in if you want to. And you can add, this is a coffee dyed CD case. What I did was I just dipped it in some coffee, like my morning coffee. And I set it on a cookie sheet and I baked it in the oven at about 250 degrees for like 5 minutes, and this is the result. And then you can also use some doilies in your pages, paper doilies. And then these are some neat papers I came across. They're a kind of fabric-y paper, or like a handmade paper, and they've been coffee dyed. And then I've also got some just regular coffee dyed printer paper, and then some coffee dyed notebook pages. So we like our coffee dye, but there's other kinds of dyed pages and papers out there, and you can do it yourself or you can buy them. A lot of them are for sale, like on Etsy and stuff. So okay, so when you're putting together a journal, what you need is called signatures, and a signature is just a group of folded pages. So you take a few pages and you put them together, and that becomes a signature. And this journal is going to have 4 signatures because I'm going to sew my pages in using this guide. And this has 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know if you can see those places where we're going to sew our pages in. So we're going to make 4 signatures, 4 groups of folded pages. And I like to just add some variety in mine. So I'll probably, you know, mix and match here. Kind of see what I've got and choose my signatures accordingly. Okay, so I've got my 4 signatures here. And each of them has, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably about 5 pages in each one. And the reason you make signatures and you don't just put all of the things together in one big folded one is because they do this thing called, like, I've heard it called alligator mouth, where this part of the book is small and this one gets huge. And so to avoid that, it just helps to have signatures. Keeps the book from getting too big at one end. Okay, and so to sew our signatures into our journal, we have this freebie that I mentioned, this hidden spine and this page guide. And what we're going to do is, well, first of all, I printed this out and then I glued it onto another piece of cardstock. And the reason I did that is because I want this to be really sturdy, because this is what has to hold our pages in. And so it's double thick, and hopefully that'll be sturdy enough that it won't like rip or tear when the pages get heavy and, you know, put some stress on it. And then this page guide is set up to match. You can see the holes here will match these. And so it's going to help us to put holes in our pages. And I'm going to go ahead and use this punch. But you could also use that awl that we mentioned before to poke holes. And we're going to just punch out these 3 holes. Okay, so now what we do is we open up our folded pages, our signature, to the middle page. And what we're going to do is make sure they're aligned the way that we want. And I've got these, they're called hinge clips, these little guys. But you could use anything like a, clothespin or whatever you have on hand. But what we want to do is kind of keep our pages from sliding around while we do this. So I'm just going to use that hinge clip to kind of try to keep the pages together. And what we're going to do is put this in the middle, and we're going to mark it. And it may be slightly different than your page sizes. Like this one's just a little bit longer. So do your best to try to line it up so it's centered on the page. And again, we're going to just put that right in the middle. And just so you know, I don't know if I mentioned this, I folded this on this center line. And once you've marked your holes, we're going to go ahead and take the punch again, or the awl if that's what you're using, and we're going to punch these out. And my holes are marked just a little bit off center, so when I cut it, I want to make sure that I cut it right on that middle fold, or as close as I can get to it. And you can see on the back I got a little bit off that center fold, so you just want to be careful of that because it can get messy if you're too far off. Hopefully this will still be okay. And we're going to repeat that with all of our signatures. We're going to line up that page guide, mark our holes, punch them, and then we'll sew them in. And I should mention, if you have a small piece like this, it's a lot smaller than the rest of your journal. It may not line up with all these holes, but it's good to try to get at least 2 because you'll want it to get sewn in. So when you're marking your holes, try to make sure that you get these small pieces on at least 2 of the holes. Okay, so now we have our 4 signatures of pages, and they each have the holes punched ready to go. So we're going to take this hidden spine template that I said was a freebie in my Facebook page, if you didn't catch that. Oh, and just a heads up, my dog Toby is suddenly worried about every little thing that's blowing past the window, so he's going to be barking. I'm going to try to calm him down, and hopefully we can get back to work. Okay, hopefully Toby will be calm for a little while. And what I'm going to do is take my punch and punch out all the holes in this hidden spine template. Okay, so now I've got my holes punched in my hidden spine, and I've got my holes punched in my signatures, and I'm going to take some of this wax binding thread and my needle, and I'm going to go ahead and sew them in. And if you've never done sewing, it's really easy to do this. Don't let it make you scared. So I want to measure my thread. I usually try to do 1, 2, and then like almost 3 lengths of thread for this. And so I do it about 3 times as long as my page, you know, like as long as my spine is going to be. And then I thread through the needle here, and it's a really big needle that comes with this binding kit, so you don't have to be worried if you're having a hard time like me, getting a little older, getting the needle threaded. And what I do is I leave a really long tail and a short tail. And to sew our page signatures into our hidden spine, we're going to start with this far left set of holes, and we're going to line it up behind the page, and we're going to come in from the back middle hole. So start in this back middle hole and go through your spine and through your page, and then we're going to go out the top hole. And we're going to pull this until we have just a little tail right here in the middle. And then we're going to go all the way down to the bottom hole. And back through the center. And it's as easy as that. And what you want to do is put your tail on either side of this long string, right? So one tail on this side, one on this side, and just pull and give it a good tight tug. You want it to be pretty tight, not so tight that it rips, but tight enough that it holds your pages in, okay? So that it should be kind of like a, you know, like a guitar string. And then what I'm going to do is double knot on either side of this long string. And I have had my signature come out after my book was completely done. So if you want to be extra careful, triple knot. And then tie it good and tight. And I like to leave just some string here so that it doesn't accidentally slip out. So just like that. And we're going to repeat that with the next set of pages until we have all 4 signatures tied in. And I like to keep my clamps on while I'm doing this so that the pages don't come loose and start, you know, it makes it hard to find your hole if your pages start moving around. So again, just thread that's not quite 3 times as long, maybe like 2.5, a little bit more. Thread your needle. Leave a long tail. Open your page up to the middle here. And then on your second set of holes, start in this middle hole. And there we go. Oh, and make sure your pages are right side up. So these are right side up. And I think these look pretty right side up. But you'll kick yourself later if you don't check. So I think that looks good. Okay, so through the middle hole, and then the top hole. And all the way, all the way back down to the bottom hole. And again, just make sure you get through all of these. There we go. And then back out through the middle. And then tails on either side of this long string and pull tight. I like to double check that I've got it pulled good and tight because that can also be a problem. Whoops, there goes Toby again. And then triple knot it. And trim the ends. Okay, so now we've got all of our page signatures tied in to our hidden spine. I'm going to go ahead and unclamp my pages. And it should be starting to look like a journal. And again, maybe just double check to be sure that you have them all right side up before you put it into your journal. I think that's not too bad. Okay, so I'm going to fold these flaps just kind of forward and backward to give them a little give here. There we go. And what we're going to do is take our cover that we made earlier, and we're going to take our spine and we're going to glue just the tabs, not in the middle here, but just on the tabs. And we're going to line it up in the middle, and we're going to attach our pages to our spine. And so I'm going to go ahead, I don't know if this clamp's big enough. Maybe I can do it from the top here. There we go. And clamp these pages so you can kind of see what we're doing here. So we're going to apply glue to the tab. And again, make sure it's, right side up. We haven't actually put a cover on, so this could potentially, turn upside down, but just to be safe, double check it's the way you want it before you glue them in. And there we go. And then I like to just kind of fold these to make sure that it's kind of centered. And I think that needs to scooch up there a little. Hopefully that's about right. And we'll let that dry just a little bit. And then we will decorate, or we'll finish actually covering the inside and then decorate our cover. And then our next video series will be about decorating the pages. Okay, and something I've noticed, just because of the gap between the spine and the covers, that little 1/4 inch gap we put in, if you remember, this isn't folding, the hidden spine isn't folding exactly on this black line. It's folding a little bit to the side, and that's okay. What you want to do is just maybe work that back and forth a little bit and press down after the glue's dry and get that to fold kind of where it's supposed to. And something you'll notice is that this will have kind of like a little curve here. And if you actually look at real books, a lot of them have this as well. So don't let that alarm you. That's totally normal. And then once your glue is dry and you've got your fold kind of where it belongs and kind of trained, you can add some inside covers. And what I've done is taken some of the paper that we printed for the front and back cover, and I've cut it out kind of to size, and I'm just going to use it to cover up this hidden spine. But if you want, you could use images from the kit. These are just pages that I cut out from the kit, and you could use those inside as well. And let's see, I like these. Trying to decide which one I want to use for the cover, and if I want to use these inside here. I might do that. Yeah, I think I like that. Okay, so I'm going to do that. So I'm just using, again, some pages from the kit, but you can use, you know, whatever you want. These are printed on cardstock, light cardstock. Well, it's heavy. It says heavy cardstock, but it's not very heavy. It's 110-pound Pen+Gear brand cardstock. And if you want, you can ink your edges. You can take this distress ink and go around the edges of your paper if you want it to stand out. You can also use the corner rounding punch, which I can't seem to find. Oh, here it is. And round off your corners. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. Oops. I'm just going to do these two outer corners. And I'm going to do that for this one as well. Okay. And then we're going to just glue these in. And if you wanted to, you could just glue like around the sides and the bottom and the top here, like just around the top and the bottom and this left side. And then that would leave this as kind of like a little secret pocket that you could slide things into. So that's an option if you want to do that. But I think I'm just going to glue mine in. Okay, and so now our journal is starting to come together. We've got our cover and our pages and our inside back cover. And now we're going to go ahead and just decorate the front cover. Now you can do a few different things on the front cover if you want. You can just take some pieces from the kit or your own decorative pieces, and you can do just some really cool layering and, you know, just add whatever little parts and bits that you want. And you can add lace or cloth, you know, if you want to, or cheesecloth is a really nice way to add some texture to the front cover. And if you want, you can ink your edges and make your pieces stand out a little bit more. Or if you want to make it really simple, you can just take one of the pages from the kit and make that the cover of your journal. So I'm going to start with that, and I think I'm going to trim this down just a little bit, and then we'll see how that looks. And again, if you want to, you can just glue the top and the bottom in one side, and then that would leave a place to make like a little secret pocket. Or if you want to tie your book shut, what you can do is take some ribbon and glue it behind here, and then leave a trail. And then you can do the same thing on the back cover, and then that will give you some ribbon that you can use to tie your book closed. And I think we might do something like that. Okay, so this is seam binding ribbon, and you can buy it on Etsy or even like on Amazon or get it at craft stores. And I like it because it's got a lot of different colors and it's this kind of crinkled look. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And yeah, I think I'll just leave a nice little trail of it to tie. And I'm gonna need two pieces, one for the back cover and one for the front cover. And I'm going to go ahead and glue it on first. And I'm going to go ahead and do the back cover as well. And I want to make sure that these are lined up. Sorry, I had a little interruption there, but we're back. And so yeah, I'm gonna line this up with this ribbon. You don't want it like, you know, too far off. You want to try to keep it lined up. Okay, so we've got our back cover and our front cover and our ribbons to tie our book closed, which I'm not going to do because they're still drying. And now the spine, you can see it has this line showing, and it's not a big deal. I don't think it's really distracting. But if you want, you can cover that up with a piece of lace or fabric. And I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right, there we go. So that's our cover and our pages. All right, it's that easy, guys. And on the next video tutorial, we'll go ahead and start decorating it. Thanks for watching.